Oh, go Dan.
We're live in the Hive for the very last time this season. So keep those digits on your emojis to show your love for our host who loves getting the clap. The always charming and incredibly effusive Navah.
Hello. You can always count on Cammy for those great intros, right? Well, happy Thursday. Welcome everybody to the Hive. And those of you outside of the Hive that are on YouTube watching 2D, hello, and Facebook and Twitter. I'm here with some really talented individuals on this Thursday. It's our final show for season 1. And they are some of the founders of Studio Syro. And that is the world's first virtual animation company using Quill. So I wanted to just introduce each one. This is Dan Frank, next to me to the right. You might know him from his Into the Spider-Verse VR version. We have Peter Ariet next to me. He's like the rendering technical artist, producer, all sorts of amazing things that he's done especially of late. And then we have Nick Ladd, who I know from Facebook Spaces, and he has created Quill tutorials, so definitely check that out. We'll see a little bit of that later. And he's also one of the founders for Studio Syro. So you guys, I'd love to start off by maybe each one of you talking about what you do and where you got into VR art and animation. So we'll start with you, Dan.
Yeah. Oh my God. It's I studied. I'm actually in Germany. It's like 2:30 a.m. right here. And I studied for 4 years animation. Just as a generalist, did a lot of things like sculpting, animation, and directing work. And but somehow I knew I would somehow get into VR. And that was half a year already before Goro came into our school, and actually Goro Fujita, who you all know, the god of Quill, and he actually taught me Quill together with others in his very first Quill workshop ever. And so
Wow.
I got super lucky, and that was 1.5 years ago, and yeah, since then I haven't done anything else other than Quill. And in our studio, I'm doing different roles right now. I'm kind of the director role.
Okay, can you tell everybody a little bit about Quill?
Well, where do I start? It's a
I know, what is Quill? And everybody can
yes,
add into that.
it's a VR animation and painting tool where you can just freely draw in VR and easily animate, and you don't even have to be an artist. It's so intuitive and so immersive, and you basically stand inside of your own art. It's
Oh,
totally different, totally different experience, a more intimate experience with your own art, and yeah, it's gonna change so many things. If everyone knew in our industry, in our animation industry, this would be like game changing.
absolutely. Okay, well, Peter, tell us a little bit about your past. You have an interesting past. You've been in music, you've done
Yeah.
all sorts of things. So why don't you tell us a little bit about your background?
So my background, I studied in school kind of video games and production, and it kind of led me into going into virtual reality. One of my first kind of ventures into virtual reality was for a company called Perilous Orbit, and for them I kind of began my technical artist like journey in terms of a little bit more official, and then kind of fully understanding the scope of what it meant to be a technical artist. And as that kind of evolved and there more of the space kind of built on itself, I decided to work with I worked with some of the other students that we became really good friends, and we started to take on kind of our own separate projects and build on that, which then eventually led to kind of everyone meeting together and taking on some of these larger projects. But it was a matter of seeing Quill for what it was, not fully understanding it, but then as time went on, one of our other members, Nick Diaz, working with him, working with Nick Saunders.
He's in the crowd right now.
Yeah.
There you go.
They're both in the crowd. All right, raise your hands.
Oh,
Give us some heart emojis. Nick and Nick. A lot of Nicks in this one. Nick.
We got all the Nicks. We have 3 Nicks in the studio. They're all here.
Yeah.
That's right. The Nicks know how to get here on the nick of time.
Nick. So we all kind of came together and we saw the potential for how to use the software, and then we were like, okay, well, let's throw it in a game engine. Let's see what we can do from there. And that kind of led to kind of some of the projects that we're going to show today that we've experienced, and just kind of the different ways that we solve problems there. That's kind of been my experience up to this point in virtual reality and working with these guys and the tools and everything.
Rock stars. Okay, Nick, you're up.
Hi.
Quill. I met Nick in Facebook Spaces, which had a place where you could actually go inside with an artist it was called Quill Illustrations for Facebook Spaces. So you could actually, in social VR, go into the art that the artist created, and they can sort of like tell you all about it, show you all the cool things. It was really interesting. So tell a little bit about how you got into VR and your background.
Yeah, of
What
course.
you're working on.
So my name's Nick Ladd. I started VR basically right when it was possible to do VR painting. But before that, I actually studied illustration for about 5 years before I started to do 3D animation. And basically, while I was doing 3D animation, I really wanted to bring some of that illustrative look that I developed as an illustrator into 3D, but it's actually very hard to do typically, to bring in like an illustrative 2D look into 3D art. It's very technical and shading oriented. Sorry. There, just amplifying. So basically going from illustration work to 3D work, it was hard to take my illustrative style into a 3D space. And that was until I began to see Quill and 3D painting basically, which was perfect. I got into VR right away and started to create 3D animated scenes and illustrated scenes, and it was eye-opening to me. And basically ever since then, I've been doing nothing but that. As soon as I graduated, I did 3 years of learning how to model and rig in 3D tools like Maya, and then right away after I graduated, I never touched Maya again, and I started using this new tool. So I've been doing freelance work, and then more recently I joined Studio Syro, helped co-found it, and now we're doing that all the time.
That's a dream for artists that are in this space.
Yeah.
It really is, and you guys are the dream team. So if you can, how did you guys all meet? Because I met Nick, I met Funi, I met Felix, and I met Nick. So what can you can you each kind of give, or one of you guys could give? Okay, you could start, Nick, if you want.
Well, I actually,
how you guys met.
I mean, I met Dan because he actually entered a contest that I was holding on doing some Quill animations, and he won the contest. And so he won like a $25, $50 Steam card or something from Sketchfab.
Yeah.
It was a Sketchfab Quill contest. So amongst, I think, about 50 entries, Dan actually won, and it was fantastic. He did a great piece, super emotional.
Go, Dan.
And then a little while later, I only met Peter once I started working on, we were doing a Slushii music video. I was speaking to Nick, and he was looking for somebody to maybe help do some of the animation because it was a very large project. And it was so large that we needed another person, and that's why I'm like, hey, I know this guy, Dan, who won my animation contest. He's actually fantastic. So he joined there. And then most people I met through that first project that we did. And that's kind of how the core group came together. I mean, people formed a little bit earlier on another project. I don't actually know that story. Peter might know that story, but
So
I wasn't there yet, so.
Kind of to speak to that, and you're familiar with the story, Navah.
Yes, I love it.
You interviewed Nick and Funi and Felix.
Woo!
So it was really interesting, just kind of the progression of that whole thing in terms of the introduction to VR for Nick, and kind of seeing him on that journey, and then meeting Felix and Funi through various ways, and then actually going off and doing that project. And something that was kind of early in the works was taking Quill and putting it into another program, and then getting results from that program. And through the remainder of the year, we were watching this video like launch. We were like, oh, this is going to be the next thing. Like, let's do this. And we always wanted it to like, you know, really catch on. And so we kept on like pushing this idea, like how can we use Quill in this unique way? And we were getting tired of, you know, having this idea, having these really creative ideas, and then seeing like, oh, that person just did our idea. Like we were like, we got to get something.
Oh, I know, that's the worst.
And so we finally, Nick Saunders and Nick Diaz and Rachel Brown, we all kind of came together. We were gonna just make like, we actually made a game. It was called Finn. It was very basic, but it was just, you know, we did an entire Quill environment. We tried to put something together, and then we threw it in Unity. And then, lo and behold, Funi approaches Nick and says, "Hey, I have another gig. If you want to, you know, try to do another music video." And then Nick was like, "Oh, I don't know if we could do another one of those. That was really hard. Like, you know, these are, you know, there's nothing involved. Like, it's, you know, the
A lot.
scheduling and everything. The production value is high, so it's definitely very difficult." And so, you know, it was a lot of convincing on all of our parts to be like, "All right, let's take this on." And once we took it on, we built this team, and we were like, "All right, let's do this." And it was crunch time almost every day, sleepless nights. And it was.
I heard
so
this
well worth
story.
It was, you know, it's a great project because of just how we all came together collaboratively and just the availability and just really tackling it head on. Hard project. And then after that, you know, we kind of just we stayed together as a group and just started to take on little projects here and there throughout the remainder of that year. And then finally came together and was like, you know, let's take this thing to the next step. Like, let's create a studio from it and start doing larger projects as a team and like underneath like an actual entity. So yeah.
That's great. Well, when you guys got together, you got this great project, which we have here that you guys can see this amazing music video that Camille played. Such good. What I love. Oh, this is your intro, yeah, a little bit of some of the stuff you guys have worked on.
Yeah, this is our demo reel. This
Yeah.
is a lot of the stuff we've done, not just as a team, but individually as a lot of our work.
You guys look at this stuff. Get some emojis up here. Look how awesome the work is. It's unbelievable. I mean, and then I think the next one is